Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of the First Nations and Native American peoples. Here where I am in Vancouver, those peoples are the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. But I know where many of you are, here on the land of other nations. Always, but especially during this difficult time, let us remember our connection to our sisters and brothers in these nations and pray for the day in which we might be with them in right relationship.
Signed in for those.
Welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own homes. Please bring who you are in with you. But what you are asked to remember is that everyone around you has brought who they are in with them as well. And all of goodwill are welcome. Now let us sing.
Is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, come, whoever you are, wonder worshiper, lover of living. Ours is no caravan of despair.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Bruce and Cheryl. So I have a few announcements. The first one, I'm very excited about this. Harold has generously agreed to team up with us again. This time, so last year we did our World Scripture series. This year it's to do a series on women mystics across the ages. We'll meet twice a month, every other Wednesday evening, and go through a whole host of 10 different women mystics. So in 5 months, including Hypatia, Rabia, Hildegard, Julian, Mirabai, Teresa, Mira Alfassa, Barbara Marks Hubbard, and a few others. So it should be lots of fun and very, very interesting. So if anyone is interested in joining us, please just message me either in the chat or send me an email or anything, or reach out to Harold and we can get going. Our first one will be on September 15th. And it's open to everybody, and it's free just by donation this time. So let me know if you're interested. So that's our first thing. Secondly, all the different interfaith organizations across BC, including ours, have decided to work together to set up conversations leading up to the pre-Parliament of World Religions, which will be in October. So we're going to have an event on Sunday, September 12th, from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So we're all going to work together to have these conversations to see if we can feel in to what a world would be like if it had peace and justice, women's dignity, rights for Indigenous peoples, if we did appropriate climate action, and if we set things up for the next generation. So those are our 5 topics. It should be wonderful. We're hoping to get folks from across the province. So if you're, and also it's open to people outside the province, of course. So if you're interested, just let me know and I can send you the Zoom link. That's also free and will be on September 12th. Our annual BC food drive is coming up on Saturday, September 25th. That's the one set up by our friends from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they're collecting food in time for the BC for Thanksgiving here. So if you're interested, please let me know and I can send you the link for that. They've been working on that for a couple of months now and getting lots of supplies for folks to have a wonderful Thanksgiving at home. And then finally, there's a save the date in November, we're going to hopefully, depending on the Delta variant, we'll actually have an in-person meeting with folks from the Surrey Interfaith Council, an interfaith community breakfast on November 13th, which is a Saturday. So hopefully we'll be able to do that in person. I felt very bad. We were going to have an in-person event, and it was the one day that it rained in like 2 months. So it got canceled at the last minute, but we'll see. Happily now it seems like it's raining more often. So hopefully it'll be possible by then to see folks in person. So those are all the events I have. Does anybody else have any other events or anything coming up that they'd like to highlight now? Okay, thank you. Then let's just come into silence for a moment. Like Jizo Bosatsu, let's all follow the Bodhisattva path and pray the prayer of Shantideva. May we become at all times, both now and forever, a protector for those without protection, a guide for those who have lost their way, a ship for those with oceans to cross, a bridge for those with rivers to cross, a sanctuary for those in danger, a lamp for those without light, a place of refuge for those who lack shelter, and a servant to all in need, for as long as space endures, and for as long as living beings remain. Until then, may we too abide to dispel the misery of the world. However innumerable sentient beings are, let us vow to save them. However inexhaustible the defilements are, let us vow to extinguish them. However immeasurable the dharmas are, let us vow to master them. And however incomparable enlightenment is, let us vow to attain it. Now, if you'll join me in a passing of the peace, this is where you're free to unmute yourselves and greet others in the community. Peace, everyone. Welcome today.
Peace to all.
Assalamu alaikum.
Peace to all and well-being.
To everyone.
Peace to everyone.
Wonderful. And now let us sing.
Om Ga Ka Ka Bi Samai Sovaka. 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 Om Ga 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 Ka Bi Samai Sovaka.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, if you'll join me in our joint affirmation, we come together in peace. We sing together in joy and with love. We worship together in one house, a house with names beyond number. Our paths are many, our beliefs are as leaves, and the tree that we cleave to is nourished by the light of compassion, justice, and mutual respect. May our lives, our beliefs, and our actions help to bring about the world of love we all seek, and let it begin here. Now is when we usually pray in our own homes and in our own ways for something happening in the world. Unfortunately, as always, there are many different things that deserve our prayers. But I think this week, if we could focus our attention on the people of Afghanistan. I talked to our spiritual care provider, Leslie Brewer-Shopper, and she actually wrote a prayer for the folks in Afghanistan. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, Islam was revealed to protect the natural rights of all humans, their rights to life, property, and freedom. Violating these rights for any reason without just cause is antithetical to Islam. We must remember that Allah will always answer the supplication of those who are oppressed. For the Messenger of Allah said, "Beware the supplication of the oppressed, for there is no veil between it and Allah. Beware the supplication of the oppressed, for it ascends to Allah as if it were a flame. Beware the supplication of the oppressed, for it is carried above the clouds. Almighty Allah says, by my might and majesty, I will help you in due time." May Allah give the innocent strength to deal with any oppression they face. May Allah give them freedom. May Allah change the hearts of their enemies. And may Allah protect all who live in Afghanistan. Now let's pray for a few moments in silence for the people of Afghanistan. Thank you. Now, when you're ready, let us sing.
Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam Sangam Sharanam Gacchami.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Bruce and Cheryl. I never heard it sung that way before. It's great. So now is when I usually say that I would pass around a basket if we could be together in person. But in lieu of that, I'll put our donation page in the chat. Many of you already donate to help keep the sanctuary going, and for that we are most grateful. Also, Doctors Without Borders is doing wonderful work in the world. So if you have some extra money that you could send their way, they would most appreciate it. And the Residential School Survivor Society could also use some money. I know they're really trying to help many survivors who've been re-traumatized by the recent finding of the Indigenous children's bodies. So any extra money you could send to them would be wonderful. Are there any other causes that we should highlight at this time that could use some support? Okay, thank you very much. Now let us sing.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And now it's my joy to turn it over to Myoshin Kate, who is joining us this morning. Thank you so much. She's one of the Zen priests who runs the Mountain Rain Zen Center here in Vancouver. And she's here to talk to us about Jizo, the Japanese Bodhisattva, and who is being celebrated this coming week in Japan, Jizo-bon. So Kate, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Kathy, for inviting me. To participate today in honoring Jizo-bon, which I had kind of forgotten about that this was this week. So I really appreciated the reminder. This format, I'm going to switch so I'm looking at you all instead of myself. This format is really familiar to me at this point because our Zen community has been meeting on Zoom for a very long time, since a year ago, March, although we have partially reopened with limited numbers and precautions for the last 3 weeks, and hoping we can, with simultaneous Zoom, and hoping we can sustain that, as I'm sure you all are aspiring similarly. So there's so much to say about Jizo Bodhisattva that I am going to struggle to fit in what I want to share with you. But one thing about Zoom, it allows for a slideshow, which we have been enjoying in our community, that capacity. So I'm going to just set up. Did I edit?
Here we go. Sorry about that. I was just making sure you can also be the co-host so you can share anything. Sorry about that.
Looks like I can. I'm good. So, oh, wait. Okay. I want to I might not be able to get rid of that strip on the left-hand side because the Zoom thing is covering up.
That's okay. I actually have that problem a lot and I end up just keeping it that way, but whatever is.
Okay. Yeah, folks could bear with me on that. So Jizo-bon, the festival is particularly for children. It's part of the larger traditional Obon celebrations, which honor family ancestors with offerings, ceremonies, and dances. And I have to say, the best fireworks I've ever seen. But Jizo-bon is within that, and it's very regional how these, how and when these festivals happen. But Jizo-bon, it recognizes Jizo Bodhisattva's role as protector of children, and includes songs and dances and sweets and decorating images of Jizo like you see here with pinwheels and new little crocheted red toques. But what does all this mean and where did it come from? We'll back up here and see that the word bodhisattva, first, I think many of you know, means awakened or awakening being, with the understanding that awakening is for the benefit of all beings, not just one's personal salvation. And I would say a bodhisattva is not a deity, not a saint, but a kind of archetypal quality, such as compassion or wisdom, given form in iconography. And bodhisattva vows express one's aspiration to live in this world as a bodhisattva for the benefit of all. Jizo Bodhisattva is known as the Bodhisattva of Great Vow, which I will get to in a minute. Both the image and the function of Jizo Bodhisattva evolved as Buddhism moved through Asia, from India, China to Japan over the centuries. And his name, if you look at these two characters, the first two characters here, Ji and Zo, Ji means earth and Zo means storehouse or even womb. So earth, storehouse, earth, womb, and then Bodhisattva, Bosatsu, Bodhisattva, Titsang in Chinese, Kashitagarbha in Sanskrit, but I'll use the Japanese Jizo. Little is known about Jizo's origin in India, but his association with the earth might go back to the Hindu earth goddess Prithvi, who appears in a wonderful story about the Buddha's enlightenment. When the Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree, meditating for days on end, the demon tempter Mara appeared and mocked him, saying, "Look at my vast armies, who will bear witness, or they will bear witness to my strength, my enlightenment. Who do you have to witness? I don't see anyone here." And in this beautiful gesture, the Buddha reaches down and touches the earth. And an earth goddess rises up from out of the earth, bows to him, and offers to be his witness. So this is a beautiful ancient root to Jizo's name. Jizo features prominently in a Chinese text that bears his name, which tells the legendary story of how at the end of the Buddha's life, when he was dying, he expressed concern about who would carry on his legacy, who would continue the work of teaching and relieving the suffering of all beings. And Jizo Bodhisattva appeared and addressed the Buddha, saying, "Even if their good deeds are as little as a hair, a drop of water, a grain of sand, a mote of dust, or a bit of down, I shall gradually help living beings to liberation. Please do not feel distressed over beings in generation to come." So that's the Jizo Bodhisattva's great vow. Now, if you look at early Indian images of Jizo, he looks kind of pretty much like a generic Bodhisattva dressed in the robes of Indian nobility, early Indian nobility. But in China, he comes to look more like a kind of king. He has a crown. And in Japan, though, he began to look more like a simple monk, dressed in simple robes, carrying a staff, and holding in the other hand the jewel of the Dharma, the teachings. That staff has 6 rings at the top. It's called a jingle staff, and monks walking through the forest would strike the staff to make the rings jingle to frighten little beings from the path, so they wouldn't step on them and be harmed. Maybe it also served to alert larger creatures that might be endanger the monk, sort of like our bear bells. But that protects them too. You know, if we scare off the bears, they won't hurt us and end up having to be destroyed themselves. So also those 6 rings symbolize the 6 realms of existence. Here's a Tibetan tanka showing the 6 realms: the heavenly realm up at the top, the hell realm at the bottom, the human realm over on the upper right, the realm of the hungry ghosts with their insatiable cravings, the animal realm opposite them, and then the realm of the often called the angry titans. These are the type A folks who always need to be in competition with others and beat out others and are never happy with who they are. There's so much I could say. There's a very, very rich symbolism in these 6 realms. But the point is that Jizo is a bodhisattva who travels the 6 realms, along with Guanyin or Kannon, the bodhisattva of compassion. Those are the 2 bodhisattvas that travel the 6 realms, helping everyone. So Jizo came to be known as the bodhisattva protector of travelers. And so you will see throughout Japan sets of 6 Jizos at crossroads, often in rural areas, but really everywhere. Jizo underwent a sort of further transformation in Japan, taking on a youthful, even childlike appearance, and his association with children became stronger, particularly those who had died in infancy or been stillborn or aborted. Although Jizo's role as protector of children developed in Japan, his role as protector of women probably goes back to that early association with the earth and the womb in India. And Jizo has served as a healing figure for women's health problems and an aid in childbirth. In medieval Japan, associations were formed mostly by women devoted to Jizo, and they sponsored children's festivals. That was the beginning of Jizo-bon, while also revering Jizo as the protector and savior of the spirits of children who had died young. In a time when pregnancy and early childbirth were fraught with danger and risks, those beings were seen, or souls were seen, as not having fully entered the human world. And this is common, I think, in many cultures where early childhood death is common, infant death. As these souls were seen as not having fully entered the human world, as still close to the other world. So the folkloric image. Oh, here are these Jizo images that you see all over Japan, and here's the folkloric image is of the little children. This is the river Sai, the river that divides this world, from the world after death. And the children stack stones into little stupas endlessly. And then every night, the demons come and knock the little stupas over, just like stacks of blocks, until Jizo Bodhisattva comes and wraps the children in his robe and helps them on their way. It's a kind of grim story, but one I think that reflects the grief of parents who have experienced the death of a child. It's a grief like no other. That yearning to protect extends beyond death. For years, I worked as a hospice bereavement counselor, and I would hear parents who had lost a child say, "Oh, I just wish I could know for sure she's okay, that she's not suffering." That wish to protect is so strong. So to this day, we find throughout Japan locations at Buddhist temples, clusters are what are called Mizuko Jizos. Mizuko means literally water child. And it may be, that name may be associated with the amniotic fluids of birth or with the endless flow of life and death. These stone images are childlike in size and in features. They're often dressed in red bibs or hats or little wraps, and given pinwheels or toys. And on the bibs or on wooden tablets like you see here are often messages written like, "Please forgive us." In the case of abortion, for example, "We, your parents and siblings, are in your debt," or "I'm so sorry," or "Please rest in peace." And most are signed by the mother, but in more recent years also by the father and even by the whole family. And these are streamers of origami cranes that you may be familiar with as well as offerings. So maybe there's something we can learn in Western cultures from the compassionate response of Jizo Bodhisattva to the circumstances of women's lives and families' lives. Some Western Zen centers have begun to offer Jizo ceremonies for those who are grieving the death of a child or who have experienced a stillbirth, a miscarriage, or an abortion. One of these centers is Great Vow Monastery outside Portland, Oregon. Jan Chosen Bays, pictured rather blurrily here, is the abbot there, and she worked for many years as a pediatrician in a clinic for children who had been physically or sexually abused. She was often called upon to testify in court proceedings after having seen some of the most painful results of human greed, hatred, and ignorance. And she had to bear witness with a calm body, unflinching eyes, a compassionate heart, and a clear mind. When she discovered Jizo Bodhisattva, he became her patron Bodhisattva and the source of the name Great Vow of her monastery that she founded, and the inspiration for a peace pilgrimage to Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 2005, marking the 60th anniversary of the atomic bombings there. I went on this pilgrimage. It was a profound experience. Chosen Bays was born on the day Nagasaki was bombed. She was raised in a Quaker family with the knowledge from childhood of what had happened on the day she was born. So participants in this pilgrimage took with them an image of Jizo Bodhisattva for each of the 270,000 people who died within the first year of the bombings, many of them children. The images were mostly in the form of prayer flags, like this one, but also there were many small clay and fabric Jizos. And as more people around the world learned about the pilgrimage and made Jizo images, the number grew to over 500,000, which we took to Hiroshima and Nagasaki to be offered and displayed in temples and museums. I imagine that now there are new Jizo shrines in Japan where the children who died in the earthquake and the tsunami 10 years ago are now remembered. And today, still all over the world, there are living bodhisattvas of all faiths doing the work of easing the suffering of children who are homeless, hurt, and frightened. Yeah, as we know, in Afghanistan, trying to, the families trying to get children safely out. So I thought we could take a moment to reflect on our own lives and the lives of those we've met or heard about who are doing the work of Jizo Bodhisattva. There are many ways in this world to travel the 6 realms, embodying Jizo Bodhisattva, not turning away from suffering. Sometimes that means taking care of basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, water, healthcare. And sometimes it means sitting still, calm, open-hearted, in the presence of another being's pain. So we don't have to think that being the bodhisattva work means preaching or even literally saving lives. Mostly it's just how we live in this world as authentically and fully as we can. The quality of our presence in each moment. I have one more slide I'm going to show you. And at first glance, this one looks like so many Jizo images. When you look closer, you see that the Jizo is holding a baby, but when you look closer, the 2 figures at his feet are actually a couple, an old man and an old woman. And this is an unusual Jizo image. This is, in this image, Jizo is the protector against dementia. And those of us who have cared for elderly parents suffering from dementia, even in its milder forms, can appreciate the role reversal involved, the endless patience and kindness, and sometimes firmness. And all of us can appreciate how we fall short, of our ideas of how we should be, of our highest aspirations. And I think that's where the Bodhisattva vows come in. That's where we learn what they really are. They're not bludgeons to make us behave, but they're vast safety nets of connection that hold us always. And it helps to have archetypal bodhisattva figures like Jizo. And they exist in all faiths in some form, I think, to give us a boost and a reminder. They're good companions for the long haul. So thank you everyone for listening and sharing in my slideshow. And maybe at the end, if people have time to stay on, is there time for questions afterwards, if people have any?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, good. Thank you, everyone.
Can I ask one?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. There's still some time now if you'd like to ask now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Kate, can you say more about the Kuan Yin and the Viso connection? You mentioned it passingly. Can you say a little more?
Yeah, the connection is, I think, twofold in that they are kind of the most beloved, particularly in Japan, bodhisattva figures. The lore about the great richness of folk tales. Many of the Kuan Yin or Kannon in Japan, that's the Bodhisattva of compassion. Many of the tales are really interestingly parallel to the tales of the Virgin Mary as a kind of support and healing figure in Europe, early medieval Europe, and those devotional practices rose about the same time in history. Yeah, so there's a whole, different origin story around. I could do another whole talk on the Bodhisattva of Compassion Kannon, but I'd say they're the heart bodhisattvas. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll do our closing song, and everything now. And then if folks would like to stay to ask more questions, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much, Kate. I'm actually feeling a little weepy. I find Jizo's work so inspiring, and then just being there for families and to protect children. It's just really beautiful work. Thank you so much for sharing it today. I think we have one more song when you're ready. Thank you, Bruce and Cheryl.
It's just a simple chant on one note. Jio-san, shi-shi-fu, shi-san, bu-san, moko-san, moko-ja-oro-mi, 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 Jio-san, shi-shi-fu, shi-san, bu-san, moko-san, moko-ja-oro-mi.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Friends, let us go forth in compassion and loving care for one another, always remembering that within each being, there is still that thread of goodness, that thread of connection. Let us remember to open our hearts to one another. And when we can't find it within ourselves to maintain that compassion, let us take inspiration from the Bodhisattvas such as Jizo, who will free all beings, even from the hell realms. Thank you. If it's okay, I can leave the recording going for now, just if folks would like to ask some questions. But if anyone has to go, that's totally understandable. And we're just so grateful to have you here with us today. So thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Kate. It was beautiful.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much. Bye, friends.
Kate, can I ask another question? Sorry. Kate, I once stumbled into a museum that had about 100 statues of Kuan Yin. And, you know, I had seen many Buddhist statues, and I thought of them as the incarnation of wisdom. And suddenly when I saw the Kuan Yin statues, I felt, okay, this is compassion. Now I'm getting the rounder picture of the whole powerful Buddhist message. And I was crying like a baby, looking at the different Kuan Yin statues, because it was like the female aspect of care or understanding, or, you know, it was almost the archetype of mother, not just my mother, every caring being. Anyway, I didn't realize the power of Buddhist art until I saw some of those, the Kuan Yin statues. It sort of amplified in a completely new direction for me.
Well, I was raised Baptist, and we didn't have graven images, right? And I think it was Kannon and Jizo and the warmth of the lore around them that warmed me towards the power of imagery in that way, more than the Buddha, the Buddha images initially. But the more I have learned over the decades, the more the images resonate. And I've encouraged our community members who are artists to make images, carve a bodhisattva out of red cedar, make these images arise from this land, give them expression in a new way. Yeah. But wisdom and compassion are the two wings of our practice, right? Without them in balance, we can't fly. And Zen can be a little overweighted on the wisdom side, I think, So that's why I do, teach compassion practices that you wouldn't find necessarily in a Japanese Zen temple. But the Jizo practices are, that's the way, that's one way it comes out, and the Kannon practices that are all too easily a little bit dismissed as folk Buddhism, but no, not all.
Kate, I was wondering, I'm very kind of interested in syncretism, and I'm wondering if there had been, if there was some lore about kind of this, like the protector of children that was in Japan before, that later on kind of got melted with Jizo, or if because it, certainly the stories of Jizo changed over time as sort of he passed through different countries. So I'm wondering kind of if that was already present in a different way in Japan, and then now is applied to Jizo, or if or if maybe it did just come with him and arise with him.
Well, pre-Buddhist spirituality in Japan was very earth-based. We could even say animistic, the shrines, little Shinto shrines are all through Japan, and there's shrines, trees, stones, waterfalls, all would have spirits that were revered and marked in certain ways. Protective deities of every little village, there would be a little shrine. So that sense of protective spirits was already deeply there and connected to the earth. And also in terms of Kannon, because Kannon or Avalokiteshvara in Sanskrit was a male deity or a male figure, becoming more female through China and into Japan. So progressively more female. And the founding goddess of Japan was female. There was a strong female figures in early Japanese culture. Yeah, so I definitely think there was some syncretism going on through history.
Are there
Kate,
different go ahead.
How would you, what are some spiritual practices we could do during Jizo-bon to sort of take advantage of that time, even if we don't have children in our life, because I imagine that his importance is beyond children, as you've talked about. So what could we do during this time?
Well, in whatever form your prayer takes, to bring forward that care of children, certainly. Some people enjoy chanting, and the Jizo Dharani that we chanted. If you have access to that, that's something that people like to do. And art practices, I really encourage people to do expressive practices that can be, quite creatively expressed. Yeah. When we have done Jizo ceremonies for families or couples or women who have lost a child, they actually make Jizo images of clay often. We haven't done it up here yet, but I really, really want to. But I've done it at Great Vow Monastery in Oregon, making little clay images, and then make the little red bib and write a message on it. And they have a Jizo garden there where people have placed images and little messages, and it's very moving to walk through the garden. It's at the edge of the forest. Yeah, so that's something I would like to maybe have up here somehow. Yeah, so actually doing something with the hands is appropriate, and children can participate, right? Did Susan have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if there were different bodhisattvas that sort of were associated with different virtues. So
That's
Harold
right.
So Jizo is
Great Vow.
Yeah.
Great Vow. Kannon. I'll use the Japanese. Often they're known by the Chinese or Sanskrit names. Compassion. I call the big three, and Jizo's the fourth. The big three are Kannon, compassion, Manjushri, wisdom, and then there's another one called Fugen, or in Japanese, Fugen, who is the bodhisattva of action, of expressing in the world action, and has the quality of being able to transform into, he's a shapeshifter in different bodies for different circumstances. So those are the big three: Kannon, Manju, wisdom, compassion, action, and Jizo is Great Vow. But there's another really obscure one that I love, who is the Bodhisattva of never disparaging. The Bodhisattva who, and we really need this one right, in our world, the Bodhisattva who vowed never to disparage anybody. And they all scorned him and, thought he was just being stupid, and he held strong, never to disparage. It's a great story about him in the Lotus Sutra.
What's his name?
Bodhisattva, in English, it just it's just translated, the Bodhisattva never disparaging. Yeah, he has a Sanskrit name. There's a great song, a bluegrass song about him, written by a Zen priest in Berkeley.
Encountering Kuan Yin, it opened me up to Mary a lot more too, because suddenly I was looking at religious history a little bit differently, and how it's important to have a feminine component, to spirituality, and more access, Yeah.
Yeah, I was amazed to realize how they arose at a similar time in history in response to, very patriarchal structures. Yeah, so pretty interesting parallels.
I grew up and my mom, we had statues of various saints in our house. And later when I got interested in Buddhism and I told my priest about it, he's very open-minded and really nice. So he gave me a book on Thomas Merton, who was of course kind of sort of both Catholic and Buddhist. And I'm a student at the Vancouver School of Theology, and I got to write a paper on Buddhist Christian dialogue. And it was interesting because all the books I found when I was researching it were by Catholics or Anglicans, because there was such an overlap and kind of the idea of the saints and some of the practices in the liturgy. There was much more of an overlap, and there was virtually nothing on Protestantism and Buddhism. I just found it so interesting. So you've come a long way from being a Baptist, I guess, Kate.
Yeah, well, the Vietnam War and the civil rights movement played a role.
It just goes to show you that there's so many parallels among all the religions. Like it's basically one spirit expressed in many sort of venues or places. So really we are all one. So I'm grateful for the interfaith connection. I know Harold really likes interfaith, so do
Well,
I.
spirit is a shapeshifter too.
Mhm.
Speaking of shapeshifters. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kate. I've got to go. Thank you, Kathy, for bringing this
Yeah.
all about. All
Thanks
Yeah.
these
so much.
Thank
really
you, Kathy.
wonderful
Thank
gifts
you,
you
everyone. Be
Thank
well.
you so much. This was
Okay.
wonderful. I
Yeah.
learned so much. Thank you, friends. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah.
Much love.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.